Hello, this is Amin and this is session 36 of ASP.NET Core tutorial. In this session, we are going to talk about display templates and editor templates. If you remember, in session 34 and session 35, we create two different views for displaying the submitted data with DisplayForModel, and also in session 35, I create another form with EditorForModel to modify the registered and saved data. If you look at to both views, you can see the appearance of the fields and the properties are somehow fixed, and in this session I'm going to change the appearance of these two forms with DisplayTemplates and EditorTemplates. For DisplayTemplates, first I should create one folder inside views shared with name of display templates, and inside that one, for each property or for each group of property, I can create one view file and do the modification. Just bear in mind, you can create these views file inside shared display templates or inside the subfolder of the controller. For example, in this tutorial, I have cost controller and I want to modify DisplayForModel and EditorForModel inside the cost. That's why I can create DisplayTemplates folder inside cost, or if I want to implement these changes in all the views and forms that I created with DisplayForModel and EditorForModel, I should create this folder inside views shared, and I should call it display templates. Let's flip to Visual Studio. First, do some modification on display templates. This is the project that I have been working so far throughout this tutorial. And for starting my modification, first I go to the views folder, and inside shared folder I create one subfolder and I call it display templates. Then if you again look at the DisplayForModel that I created in session 34, if I click on this link, you can see this link will open inside this tab. And as you can see, I want to change this behavior and add the target underline blank for this URL. First, for this purpose, I should create one view file inside created folder, display templates, with name of url.cshtml, and then I do modification inside that file. I create one view file, and I call it url.cshtml. I delete auto-generated file, and inside this file, I make an anchor tag, and for href, I use view data and model. With view data.model, I can replace href of this anchor tag with the anchor tag that I created inside my DisplayForModel. And here I add target underline blank, and for the label of this anchor tag I use again view data.model. Also, I can add some style to this anchor link, but I continue with this change and save the project and run the project to see whether underline blank target is added to my DisplayForModel or not. Project is up and running, and I will go to create a strongly typed view and I submit this one. As you can see, I have again my DisplayForModel view, and if you look at view page source, you can see here I have target blank, and it is proved that the changes that I made inside url.cshtml file inside the display template folder implemented on this one. And if I click on this URL, you can see the link will open in the next page, and the behavior that I want implemented on this DisplayForModel. And also I want to make the string inside this view to be strong, and also I want to change the color of this string inside this DisplayForModel. For this purpose, I flip it again to Visual Studio, and I create another view with name of string. I delete auto-generated code, and here for this purpose I just add this string to one strong HTML tag, and again I use view data dot model. With this piece of code, all the string inside DisplayForModel will be encapsulated in a strong HTML tag, and also I can add one style to this one, and I want to change its color to, for example, blue. Let's save these changes and run the project again and see the result of these changes inside DisplayTemplates to DisplayForModel. And again, I go to cast, create a strongly typed view, and submit the form. And you can see all the string of this view, which created with DisplayForModel, is encapsulated in a strong, and it's changed to a strong, and also their color have been changed to blue. And if you look at the view page source, you can see all the string inside this view encapsulated inside a strong tag with the style that I have implemented. Another change that I want to make inside this one, I want to change the format of this date and display this date with day, month, and year, and I want to delete this part which display time. For this purpose, again I switch to Visual Studio and create another view file with name of date time, and I delete the auto-generated code, and here I use model directive, and I bind this model directive to date and time, and here I use model and I change it to a string, and I use the format that I want, and I implement the format that I mentioned, which is day, month, and year. Let's save the changes and run the project to see the result again. And I wrote to cast strongly typed view, and I submit the form, and you can see I have date with the format that I want, which is day, month, and year. Also, I can implement the changes inside cost edit view, which I created with EditorForModel. And for this purpose, I should create another folder inside shared subfolder inside views with name of EditorTemplates, and I should create the required view file inside EditorTemplates to implement the changes that I want. As I mentioned, inside shared folder, I create another subfolder with name of EditorTemplates. And first change that I want to implement inside the editor form is displaying the date with the format that I want. As you can see, it is again with the format that I don't want, and it has time as well, and I want to delete this part and display this date inside the edit box with the format that I want, which is day, month, and year. For this purpose, I create another view file inside EditorTemplates with name of date time. And again, I delete the auto-generated file. And again, I use model directive and use date time, and I bind date time to this model directive. And here, as I want to have one text box, I use HTML helper and text box HTML helper. And inside this one, for expression, I use blank. And for the value inside the text box, I again use the format that I use for datetime for display4. And again, I use model dot to a string, and I enter the format that I want, which is day, and I want to display month in a character and year. Let me save the changes and run the project to see whether these changes implemented inside EditorForModel form. This time I go to cast, edit, and I want to edit ID1, and as you can see inside the text box I have the format that I want. Also I want to change the color of the string inside this form, and for this purpose I create another view file inside EditorTemplate with name of string. And again I bind this model directive to a string type, and I use textbox HTML helper, and here for expression I use blank, and for the value again I use model. And here I want to add some style to the text box inside EditorForModel form, and I use a style here and I make it equal, and I want to change the color to, for example, green, and background color to yellow. Also you can add the class that you want here, but I leave it with these changes and I save it and run the project. And I go to cast, edit ID1 again, and as you can see the style of this text box has not been changed. Let's back to Visual Studio to realize what is the reason. And as you can see I use comma instead of semicolon for separating these two styles, and I correct it and run the project again. And I go again to cast, edit ID1, and as you can see in the property that I have a string, the color has been changed to green and its background color has been changed to yellow. These are the topics that I want to present in this session, and you can modify these form more. For example, for amount, you can use the type of variable that I use for amount or the rest, and you can do modification inside the form that you created with EditorForModel and also DisplayForModel with the way that I implemented in this session. Thank you for being with us. Don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel and also follow us on our social media. Once more, thank you for watching us.